So today what we're doing is we're sowing the last of the spring barley here, and some of the spring barley that has been planted, 10 days, 2 weeks, and it's ready for spraying, or will be ready for spraying towards the weekend. But today what we're doing is a little bit different. We're sowing with drill number 2, which is a strip till drill, and as you can see in the background there's no cultivations has happened. So really the previous crop was rape, and we're coming straight in and sowing directly into that with a strip till drill. So the land is in a very healthy state and soil temperatures are good. So it's a little bit of a different way of sowing the barley. It mightn't look as tidy, but very effective, especially as the year is starting to run late now. This will be the last day of sowing spring barley for me for this year, so very happy.
Okay, today, 15th May, we're in spring barley. Kevin isn't with us today. We're not actually in a field of Kevin's. He's sown the last of his spring barley crops, which you would have seen this morning on the footage. This is, call it typical or untypical in a way, of spring barley that we would have at this day of the year. Normally, on this date, I'd be putting a T1 fungicide on spring barley. The earliest spring barley went in around me, where I'm living, was probably around the first few days of April. The last of it has gone in the last few days. This crop is just at the 2-tiller stage, so it's actually perfectly timed for putting on an aphicide and a herbicide. There's very few weeds here, it's incredibly clean. Partially to do with the land, but also the way the weather has fallen. It's been cool and we didn't get a flush of weeds. This year, ironically, above all years, the early management of spring barley is vital, because the final yield of spring barley of any barley crop is created at the start, because it's all about ear numbers. You would have heard me talk about in the winter barley loading up on the T1 fungicide. Ironically, I'll be preaching the very same thing on spring barley, even though this year a lot of guys are talking about can we cut back on inputs because the yield expectation isn't great. I'd be concerned about BYDV. I'm not sure what the gurus in Oak Park are saying on aphid counts at the moment, or susceptibility. In my book, you cannot not spray an aphicide for BYDV, because the financial consequences of getting it are far too severe. I'd also be pushing to put early Cycocel or whatever variant of it you believe in on spring barley, because the likes of those 2 little tillers, we want to drive this crop to plant out as much as possible. The plant knows the day of the year it is, it knows the length of the days, and it'll, even though it's been sown a lot later than previous years, it'll be ripe around the same time, so the whole season is condensed. The plant wants to race through growth stages. So early season management, the likes of this, it'll get its aphicide, it's going to get a herbicide, which for this kind of land, which is very prone to fumigatry and has a lot of brassica weeds in it as well, and an awful lot of fat hen, it'll be a Camiomax based program, possibly with Galaxy or Star Ain. With that, we're also, as I said, going to have a regulator. It might be Cycocel, it might be K2. The rates won't be that high, somewhere in the 1 to 1.5 litre range, depending on labels. I'll also put on its early nutrient. If you're passing through this field with a tractor and sprayer, and you know the crop needs a rate of manganese in its lifespan, why not put a half rate in now? A lot of people will say, sure, 50% of it is going to hit the clay. That doesn't matter, because the other 50% is going to hit the crop. And the more nutrition you get in here, the faster, the greater the yield is going to be at the end of the day. So we'll feed it early, we'll mind it early, and create the potential early. To quote a professor of mine that taught me coming through college, well sown, half grown. This year there's not an awful lot of crops that are perfectly sown, so they were challenged from the start. This one was quite good. It's in good order at the moment. The variety is Planet. It's just started to jump in the last few days, so there's still great yield potential here, but you have to mind barley from the start. It's absolutely critical.